Good evening and welcome to the January 20th meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. Why don't we introduce ourselves? Marissa, why don't you from our left?
Marissa Robertson.
Diane Long.
Frank Callahan, member at large.
Lindsay Nystrom.
I'm William Eddy, the chair. Do we have a microphone for Marissa down the end?
We can have it.
Do you want to shift? We have microphone on this side, whatever you want to do.
I'm okay here.
Okay, you're good. And joining us from our great friends from the city.
Jacqueline Vermeister, Community Preservation Manager.
Paul Morano with Economic Development.
Terrific.
And we also have one more
Oh, we have,
online.
Eric's online. Eric.
Is he?
Eric?
I
So
see.
joining us remotely is Eric Stratton from the Parks representative to the committee. So, in your packets, folks, is the minutes from the October 28th meeting. Well, it seems like a long time ago, doesn't it? Is that really the last time we got together?
No, December 16th?
So why did I have October 28th? Did I get the wrong minutes here? Hold on a second here.
Oh, it says October 28th on this set,
Yeah, it does.
right here.
Okay, so we're
So
going
it's
to
like-
assume, it's going to be the first correction of the minutes is going to be, I assume these are December, what's, anybody know the
16.
date? So we're going to 12 that to 12/16, 25. Any other edits, corrections, great thoughts?
No.
Seeing none on Lindsay Nystrom's motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the ayes have it. So tonight, we've got a couple things that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Good to have you with us, Eric. So we have a couple things tonight we've got to do. We've got, and Jacqueline's going to chat with us for a minute about the Parks Department and going on with the spring item that we passed and where they're at with that. We are going to take the important step tonight to invite people to come see us next meeting. And we're going to talk a little bit about where we are with some of the folks from the spring and where they're at. And finally, we have got to set some dates, both for a second February public hearing, and we'll also set a date for an April meeting. And we'll probably talk a little bit about what we need to do between now and the actual public hearing. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jacqueline to give us some updates.
Through the chair, absolutely. So first on the agenda is a discussion for a change order request for Roberto Clemente Park project. So this is a project from the City of Worcester Parks Department, which was awarded $1.257 million in the pilot funding round for items related to the construction of the parking lot as part of the Roberto Clemente Field project. At that time, the award was based on the quote that they were provided from the engineering company. After it went out to bid, the construction came in far under the $1.25 million. So they are returning with a request to utilize the remaining funding to create another parking lot in another portion of the park. This was part of the original plan, but had remained on funding and was pending funding source. Given that this is the first time that we are dealing with this type of excessive funds at the end of the project, I've reached out to the Community Preservation Coalition to understand best practices around what to do with funds that are left over from these projects. and was advised that all these change orders would have to go through the CPC as well as City Council, as they're significantly different from what was put into the original grant agreement. And so, one of the things that we're recommending is that the change order be considered as an additional project application for the fall 2025 funding round, with the total amount of funding to be awarded in this fall 2025 round to be $485,000, which is the balance of the Parks Department CPA award. I should mention that the project is well underway, and we are waiting for the final invoices for the project. In your packets, your report packets, you can find renderings of where the new parking lot will be, as well as where it's all related to the original parking lot that was proposed in the project.
So, first of all, thank you, Jacqueline, and thank you for insight to reach out to Stuart. I thought that was a great idea, and we always appreciate Stuart's guidance and thoughts. I guess my only thought on this is, and I think it's the right process to go through and put it back in, but I would just have us keep in mind, and I'd really love to hear from Eric on this, as the Parks Department representative. We supported this project knowing it was a lot of the money was going to a parking lot. So while it's, terrific that they saved money and that they're sending it back to us, we voted already to do a parking lot. I'm not sure this substantially changes much of the project that we voted for parking lot once. Doesn't matter about, whether we send it back for the same purpose. It's great that we get extra parking. That was already in the plan, but for me, substantively, this isn't really much of a change. We voted to send them $1.2 million, knowing that a good portion of the money was going to a parking lot. And at the end of the day, it's exactly what's gonna happen, only it's a little more parking than there was. So, does anyone else have any thoughts, or Eric, and as the Parks Department representative, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, thank you. I support, our moving along with funding this additional sort of scope of work. The two kind of comments I think I would have on this, generally speaking, I agree. I think this is the right process that, if we have excess funds, they should come back to CPC. And again, here we're able to expand on the scope of what we're providing. And we would have the option to use those funds for a different use if we sort of saw fit. I think the biggest question I kind of have with this is that, it sounds like the amount we were given was based off of engineering. And when it went out to bid, it came in, pretty significantly under this. And I'm curious if that's sort of a common occurrence. Is this something we should expect sort of regularly? Just because obviously it does impact what other projects we are able to fund or award during those funding cycles. So my only concern would be that if we have projects like this where we're allocating a large dollar amount to them and then finding that large portions were unspent, that gives me a little bit of pause, because again, we're making decisions here with regards to what to fund and what not. In this case, I do think it makes sense to continue funding this sort of an additional portion of this project. So I would support that, but I just want to be careful that we don't see this happening regularly. And I know we have had other projects where we've kind of gotten more for our money, so to speak, which is great. But I just want to be careful that we aren't running into this kind of issue regularly.
Paul, I'd be curious, given your vast experience, I always assumed most of these would be, the price would be over as opposed to under. Do you see a lot of this?
Through the chair, so it's really project by project. It's in some cases it's really an unknown. The way it works is we work, and I can't speak directly for the Parks Department, but just for my own projects through the Special Project Division, Economic Development, we work with either architects and engineers to come up with plans, specifications to go out to bid, and they put an estimate together, and we need that estimate in order to request a purchase order. We can't issue an RFP without having a purchase order in place, and that amount of the purchase order is based on that consultant's estimate. In some cases, we have a project right now where the bid actually came in about $150,000 lower than the estimate. I remember when we put Frank Carroll Plaza out to bid, we were incredibly low on that, where we had to change the plans. I think we were like $1 million plus short, underestimating it. So it is an unknown. We try to make sure that we have enough in the purchase order to do the project. So if the purchase order is conservative on the low end, we'd have to go back out to bid. So I think there's always a cushion in there, for lack of a better term, but I think this is a little bit, I want to say, on the rear side that there's so much of a gap, but I mean, it's a good thing if you look at it, that we're able to get the first phase of the parking done so cheaply that we're able to have enough money to do the second phase. But again, I don't think a funding differential or a cost differential like this happens that often.
Eric, does that answer your question?
It does, and I agree, having that cushion built in is great. This might just be something for us to just keep an eye on moving forward, just in case we see other projects where this is also the case. But I do think that, funds that are unspent from the scope of work should come back to us, and if they want to request additional work with the remainder, they're certainly free to do so. So I think doing that in this case, setting it up as kind of a change or an additional allocation sounds okay to me.
Other thoughts on this?
Just a question, so we're going to vote to accept the money back at tonight's meeting, and then in the February rounds, they will come to us and make a proposal to us, and we'll vote on it again, is that correct?
So I think it's a motion to accept the money back, but also to request that we put this back into the pool, the actual project. Or is it just
The recommendation from staff was to put those $483,000 into the add it to the 6 million, that is the amount available for the fall 2025 round. However, that is just the staff recommendation.
But given that they didn't apply for the second round, or did they? I didn't even notice them in there, but do we have to then reinstitute the project into the pool?
Through the chair, the recommendation is to consider this request as an application,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
this is the first time that this has happened. This would be a new policy. And so they have supplied all of the information that would have been necessary for an application through the previous application, as well as the quotes and estimates and renderings that came with this request. And so the recommendation would be to consider this as an application with the fall 2025 funding
I think your
round.
motion would be two parts. It would
Okay.
be to accept the money back and put it as part of the overall round of funding, adding it to the 6 million. And then it would be also to place this in the pool of projects, the amended version of this project.
Cool.
Any thoughts, any
So
questions?
we'll have one more application.
Yes, so it'll be 28.
Okay. That seems fine to me.
So do you want to actually make that?
Sure.
So,
Motion to accept the funding back to the Community Preservation Commission. And then the second part would be to place the funds into the pool in order to be eligible. Does that sound right?
do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Oh, Eric, I'm sorry.
Aye.
I will get the hybrid meeting down someday. You're getting the Anthony
Do we need
treatment
a
tonight. Usually I forget Anthony every meeting, so Eric, you're having the same problem tonight.
Not a worry. Do we need a motion to accept this application into the pool as well? Or was
think we
that, I'm
just-
sorry, I just want to make sure
I think we just did,
that
Eric.
was clear. Okay, I just want to make sure that was sort of how I was interpreting this.
Yep.
So, Okay.
Jacqueline, you want to tell us how we're doing on the pilot round, gang, and any your initial thoughts on the fall application update?
Through the chair, absolutely. So over the past month, Community Preservation Program staff have been working on both advancing pilot round project grant agreements as well as reviewing the fall 2025 applications and preparing them for your review. So as of today, we have executed or we have started signatures and executed 2 of the contracts for the pilot round and have started the signature process for a third. We've received drafts of 4 or more construction project grant agreements that just this week. And so I'm going to be reviewing those and preparing those and hopefully getting those into circulation over the next days. So we hope to have them all complete before the recommendations for the fall 2025 funding round are complete. And so in your packets, there's kind of a breakdown. The breakdown is from last week when those packets were sent out, but it identifies the ones that we assumed would be in circulation at this point. So speaking of those fall 2025 round applications, those were closed on January 7th. So in total, we received 27 applications, and so all of those 27 applications had submitted pre-applications. 6 applicants that submitted those pre-application forms decided to withdraw their application from consideration. So the reason for withdrawing those applications could be their project wasn't eligible. There was one applicant that had some health concerns that made him believe that he wouldn't be able to follow through with the project, or not having key documents necessary in time, such as those cost estimates for the application deadline. So of these 27 applications, 12 are returning applicants. They're applicants that applied in the pilot round. 15 are first-time applicants, which is really exciting. So 3 projects are in the community housing category, 7 in the open space and recreation, and once again, the historic resources category is the largest with 17 applications. This all totaled about $9 million in requested funds, meaning that the committee has some tough decisions that you're going to have to make. And you can see that breakdown in your report. So because of that pre-application process, the Community Preservation Program staff were able to work with applicants throughout the application process to determine what elements of the project were eligible. And while last time we received that, all those applications, and we had to go through the process of trying to work with them in between this meeting and the public hearings on getting their projects eligible, all of the projects that you have received applications for are eligible for CPA funding. So they're all located in that Google Drive folder and ready for you to begin reviewing. And since they were uploaded, there was one small change in the amount requested for a project, but that's also already been updated on the chart that you have in front of you tonight and also in the Google Drive. So the next step in the fall 2025 round funding process is the public hearings, and we're going to talk about the timeline and the dates for that momentarily. But does anyone have any questions up to this point regarding the applications that we have received?
So the pilot round first, we kind of go work our way calendar-wise.
Absolutely.
So I'll ask the question that's been asked many times before, that's out of your control. How's things in the legal department? Are we going to see, is there any movement that we can report or anything that gives you cause for hope and optimism in terms of agreements coming out of there?
Through the chair, we have received draft grant agreements for construction projects this week. So I need to go through them now and make the final edits and get them back through law to finalize. And so there is movement. We have draft grant agreements that I'm reviewing this week.
Because my hope is, and I know we talked a bit about this last meeting, that we're going to see awards, we're going to vote on February 24th, and let's assume it goes to the council in March and they actually make awards. You're gonna start to see this next round, folks, start to appear on your screen every day, sometime in April, May. And my hope is that we can make significant progress on executing agreements and get the pilot round really up and moving so that you're not sitting with now 30-something projects to try and manage. And so my hope is you're gonna get way ahead of this, because we've got these agreements that come out, and yeah, we can get some of these folks up and moving before the second round kicks in. Are you optimistic on that?
Through the chair, I feel more optimistic having received these grant agreements this week.
Terrific. Any questions on the pilot round or on the round that we are now undergoing?
I have a question on the new round. One of the applications is from the Worcester School Department, and I think it's for $1.6 million to do playgrounds for the schools. And just to give you some background, I was very active in the effort to get this pass, the CPA pass in Worcester, and I approached the students at Holy Cross, who were the leaders of Working for Worcester, hoping that they would become activists in it, because they're doing exactly the same type of thing as what the school department is requesting. And unfortunately, I didn't hear back from them. They were student volunteers, but I know that they were working very closely with Tim Garvin, the head of the United Way, and everything else like that. And I was just wondering if you could go back to the school department and ask them, could you go back and work with, say, Working for Worcester and United Way in order to set up so that the playgrounds could be done through this, these groups? I feel it's more in the spirit of the Community Preservation Act. So is that something that could be done by the administration?
Through the chair, I can relay that message to the applicant.
So just kind of following up on this, there's nothing that prohibits the school department from applying for CPA funding, is there? I mean, I think other communities have funded school projects.
Through the chair, there is nothing that prohibits a school department from applying for this
It was
funding.
unusual. I read it too and looked at it and was a little surprised, but it's, you know, it certainly meets the spirit of what we fund, I guess.
My thought is, the city of Worcester, I think the budget, the majority of the budget goes to the schools already. And so it just seems like they're doing great already in terms of what the taxpayers are going for. And I'm trying to do something that I think is in the spirit of the Community Preservation Act.
I think the one thing we will want to know is how much money per year does the school department spend on parks? And as long as they're spending that amount each, you know, in this year, and this appears to be above and beyond, it seems like it'd be a proper, but I just want to make sure we're not all of a sudden becoming the funding arm for the public school playgrounds. And there's a, you know, all of a sudden we're looking at the annual amounts that go like this, and then all of a sudden it drops the year we're giving you know, whatever it is they're asking for. So I guess my request through you would be to reach out. I'm not as familiar as the school side of funding as I am on the city side. Is how do we normally fund the parks, the school playgrounds? Does that come out of typical bonding? Does that come out of a, you know, state funding? Where does that usually come from? You know, does Mr. Antonelli also have some responsibility in the school side from this office over here? Unless somebody has a resident expert on how the school playgrounds are funded, it's beyond my expertise. I would really like to kind of get a sense of how that's funded and normally at what level, if we could, please.
Through the chair, and that's also a question that you can dig into further with the applicant at the public
Absolutely.
hearing.
Absolutely.
And if I may, you know, I think this is a great point of, you know, we have a responsibility to ensure that we are not supplanting these budgets, that, you know, this is meant to, you know, add on to that. This should be, you know, in addition to. So I think that's an excellent point by our chair, and definitely a question I'd also be curious about.
And we will, Jacqueline is correct, we will have that opportunity to ask those questions, but it'd be nice if we could get a little background info on school funding, because I don't think anyone on the committee spends a lot of time on school funding. That'd be great. Frank, do you look like you had something
Oh,
else?
just another observation that, I've read the articles in the newspaper about working for Worcester and the tremendous efforts they've done, where they've done many of the school playgrounds and that type of thing. And I just think if the schools are starting to do it, then it loses the momentum for this activist group and also United Way and that type of thing. So I'd like to have them work together.
Any other comments, thoughts on any of where we're going from here? I mean, obviously, between now and when we bring folks to the public hearing, I would urge each of you to go on to the link that Jacqueline provided to the Google Docs, to the actual applications beyond the summary. Take a look at the applications. Again, go back and look at the scoring rubric and at the items, whether it be community benefits, experience, go back and take a look at what we're looking for, so that when the folks come in to make their presentations, we can ask the pertinent questions about, how it matches what we're looking to accomplish. Jacqueline? Where are we at?
Through the chair, so the next step in the fall 2025 funding round is those public hearings. So this evening, CPP staff will send out notifications to all applicants that are invited. So at this point, I believe that we do need to decide which applicants to invite to those public hearings.
So my suggestion, folks, would be we really need two motions here. One, unless, I'm gonna work kind of in reverse here. If you see of anyone that you believe that we should pull out and have a discussion about, we can certainly do that. Otherwise, I think the appropriate motion would be to invite all 28 applicants to appear before us. And the second item, I would hope someone would make a motion to, given that we're not gonna do 28 public hearings in Tuesday night, or we'll be here for a bit. And for those, I'm kind of looking at you, Marissa, we're going to be here for a little bit on each of the night of the public hearing. So, usually I try and keep these meetings to an hour. Expect at least 2 hours on that, just because I know it's your first go-around. So the second motion we need is to pick a night for a second meeting that week. Whether it's Wednesday night or whatever, but we need so we need two motions. One, to invite folks to the 28 applicants, unless you want to pull somebody out. And the second would be to pick a night that we're going to do a second meeting on.
Just a point of clarification, if I may.
Of course, Eric.
I would agree, inviting all 28 to come speak and that we need to add a date, but perhaps we also clarify that we are inviting them to speak at one of those evenings, not both.
Well, no,
they-
Jacqueline is the gatekeeper here. I assume
Yeah.
she will use her magic powers to get 14 on one night and 14 on the other night, and we'll
Perfect.
have great faith. And I assume it's
Yeah.
the usual first come, gets their whatever when they wanted.
Through the
And
chair,
that sounds good to me.
yeah, so I am happy I will send out emails later tonight to all applicants who are invited to the public hearings and list those dates that are chosen. And yes, it will be like kind of a first come, first serve for which night they prefer.
Terrific. So, yeah, Marissa?
Is there a time limit cap they're given for how long they can
Yes.
present?
Yes. What did we give them last year? Is it 5 or it's 10? I forget.
Through the chair, in the email, I said 2 minutes.
2 minutes, there you go. So I was kind of balancing 10 minutes for each one. And so if you give them 2, they'll speak for 3 or 4.
Right.
And then we want room for questions.
Yeah.
Because that's really, I want each member of the committee to have an opportunity to hear what they want to hear or learn what they want to learn from each of the applicants. And so hopefully we can keep them relatively short, and then they use it for questions. And there were only a couple last year who went a little lengthy, but for the most part, it moved along pretty good. So, assuming that, because I don't sense that anybody wants to pull anybody out, so then the first motion, hopefully from someone, would be to invite all 28 applicants to a public hearing, either why don't we do this first? Why don't we pick a second date? So is it,
Wednesday seemed to be the night that most people were free, right?
Wednesday.
Eric, how are you on Wednesday, the 11th?
Looks good to me.
So on Diane's motion to have a second meeting on, for the public hearings on Wednesday, February 11th, 5:30 at this location. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Lindsay. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 So now, second motion will be in order to invite 28 applicants to appear before the committee on either February 10th or February 11th.
So moved.
Motion made by Lindsay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. So terrific. All right, Jacqueline, where are we at?
So through the chair, during those public hearings, the applicants will have a chance to briefly talk about their project and receive questions from both the CPC as well as the audience, or anyone from the public. There will be both a virtual and in-person option for the applicants. And following those hearings, the CPC will score the projects using the scoring rubrics, and send me comments and scores for each project by February 16th. So the CPC will then meet again on the 24th after I've compiled all of those scores and comments from you on each of those projects into a report and given you hopefully at least a few days to review the report. On February 24th is when we'll come together again to recommend the projects. Once recommended, projects will be sent to City Council for the March 10th or 17th meeting. City Council can accept, reject, or lower the recommended award for each project. They cannot consider a project that is not recommended by the CPC, and they cannot increase the amount of funding. So following City Council approval, applicants are going to be contacted and conditional agreements will be put together. Given that we now have draft grant agreements ready, we'll begin to draft those much quicker. So over the next few months, the CPC will be tasked with that, and as well as the update of the community preservation plan. And so as part of this process, there is a mandatory public hearing in which the community will have a chance to weigh in on the community preservation plan and the application process, and we'll be making updates to both of those. Given that we've just recently approved projects, we're recommending that we choose a date in April or May for something like that.
Terrific. Folks, I think we, as we look at these projects, I think all of us were fascinated, I guess would be a good word, in the first round of the rich, diverseness of the applicants, everything from cemeteries to, parks and housing. And I would say to you, as we look at these, this time from firehouses to, the expected ones to murals to whatever. I mean, it's a rich diversity of applicants again. So it should make for great discussion, lots of good questions, and I don't think we can make any bad decisions. So, any final, or anything we're missing?
Through the chair, no. Looking forward to the public hearings. They're always a great time.
This is the fun part, folks. This is where we get to hear lots of good stuff and get to make some decisions. And, as we're finding out in the second round, if we get some folks who leave disappointed, we'll probably see them again. So, which is great. Jacqueline, thank you as always. Paul, thank you as always. Do I have any new business? Seeing none on, there you go, Frank. Now, Marissa, this is your turn. Marissa's motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
And we are adjourned. Good to see everybody. We'll look forward to public hearing time.